My name is John Martin, and I'm retired from the Texas Rangers. I served in Company D from 1996 until 2003, and then in headquarters as a member of the Unsolved Crimes Investigation Team from 2003 until my retirement in 2007. So, I was born at Fort Gordon, Georgia. At the time, my daddy was in the Army, and so he was attending MP school at Fort Gordon, and my mom went out to see him and had some issues with her pregnancy, and they wouldn't let her travel. And so I was born there. I lived there as a resident of the state of Georgia for 2 weeks, and then became a Texan right after that. So I'm in high school, and I had sets of friends. Some of them were going to go to college, and some of them were going to just start jobs, and it really a lot of impatience on my part. By the time I was a senior in high school, I pretty well figured out that I wanted to pursue a law enforcement career. And just a young, impatient young man, right? And so I decided I want to start that right now. And so we had a guy come to the school that was a United States Air Force security policeman in a recruiting deal that the Air Force was doing at the time. It came to our high school, and I thought, that sounds pretty cool. I think I might want to do that. And so I turned 18 in November of my senior year, and in January of my senior year, I went down to the Air Force recruiting office and enlisted in the delayed enlistment program. And then I went home and told my mom and dad I'd done it. At that time, it's changed a little bit now as I understand it, but at that time, the security, what they called at that time, the security police career field had two different branches to it. And they call it now security forces, and I don't think it's bifurcated anymore like it was back then. At least that's what I'm told. But you had a law enforcement branch and you had a security branch, and I was in the law enforcement branch. So the best way to describe that is that we were base police, a base police department. And later on, while I was still at Anderson Air Force Base, I got assigned to a newly created crime suppression team, and we did surveillances. That's what we did in support of criminal investigations. So we were the guys that were out in the middle of the night doing surveillances, primarily. And so that was my first introduction to doing any kind of investigative work. When I was in high school, as I said earlier, I knew that I wanted to pursue a law enforcement career, but specifically, I knew that I wanted to go to work for DPS. I wanted to be a trooper. And so, again, that impatient young man that didn't want to go to college and wait to be a trooper, I did my tour of duty in the Air Force, knowing that, at least that my plan was to do that 4-year tour and then apply to DPS, and hopefully they would be hiring when I got ready to get out of the service. When everything worked out, I separated in May of 1986. I started the application process with DPS in January of that year. And so by the time I separated from the Air Force, I knew that I had been hired by DPS, and my recruit school start date was June the 10th. So I was out of the Air Force for 3 weeks before my recruit school started. That's a young man's game, being a trooper. It's a young man's game, and I was getting to that place in my career where I was ready to do something a little more focused and a little more in line with what where my interests were at the time. Now, not when I was 22 years old out of recruit school, that's all I wanted to do was be a trooper. So don't mistake that, don't take what I've said is that it was a means to an end. I really enjoyed being a state trooper, and it was a great experience, great law enforcement career, had way more freedom than probably any 22, 23-year-old should have. And it was, I tell people all the time, we didn't really know how much fun we were having. I'll tell a story that y'all will probably end up cutting out of this, but I'll tell. So my pivotal moment was, again, I've got, right at 10 years as a highway patrolman, and I was working one Sunday night, and I get behind a pickup truck, and it's all over the road, not going very fast, but just all over the road, quite obviously, most likely driven by a drunk driver, right? And so I turn the lights on, and it's one of those stops where it takes the guy forever to finally get off the road and get it stopped. And he gets out, and just at a glance, I know this guy is just, you know, he's just really, really drunk. And so I get him in custody. He didn't give me any trouble or anything. I get him in custody, get him in the car. But when I first walked up on the car, and actually when I was behind him, I could see that there was another person in the car. And so after I get him situated in my patrol car, I walk up there, and there's a lady in the car, and I get her out, and she's equally as intoxicated as he is. And so I'm talking to her, and I'm trying to figure, you know, typically what we try to do, if we get somebody a ride home, she really hadn't done anything wrong, right? So we get somebody a ride home, we tried to do that kind of thing, and if you couldn't, you just had to take them into custody because you couldn't just let them go. And she was in pretty bad shape. She couldn't drive the truck home. You're not gonna let her walk home from there, you know, so we gotta find somebody to either take them or we would arrest them for public intoxication. It's kind of the way we handle those kind of things back in those days. And so I'm wanting to get her identified, and so she tells me that her ID's in her purse, and she goes to reach for her purse. Well, you know, you're not going to let her do that because you don't know what she's got in her purse, right? So I said, no, I'll get your purse out, and you can help me, and we'll find your driver's license. And so I reach in there, I get her purse, and I open it up, and I run my hand down in it and to find her, because she had told me that she had a wallet in there. So I ran my hand down there to find the wallet, and my fingers suck about this deep into something warm and wet. And I pull my hand out, and then the puke smell, the vomit smell, filled my nostrils, and I've got this vomit dripping off my fingertips, and I start gagging. And so I'm holding her purse by the straps, and I've got this vomit dripping off my fingertips, and I'm gagging. And I remember after that was over, I'm thinking, I gotta find myself another job. There wasn't really any other job at DPS I was interested in other than being a Texas Ranger. I didn't want to do really undercover. I'd done undercover work to some degree, and that just wasn't me. I like wearing my badge on my shirt. And so, and I like the type of investigations that Rangers did. You know, the bread and butter crime, the murder cases, sexual assault, robberies, just the kind of bread and butter stuff that they did. I enjoyed that kind of work, and so, or I knew I would enjoy that kind of work, and so I applied to become a Texas Ranger. I went to the board, and I kind of made my mind up that I was going to just answer the questions like John Martin would answer the questions, and not try to answer the questions in a way that I think somebody else might want John Martin to answer those questions. And if they wanted me, fine. If they didn't, I had a job. And so I was at home, and I was thinking, I'll probably, if the call comes, it'll probably come today. And the phone rang, and this is before caller ID and all that. The phone rang, I answered the phone, and Maurice Cook was on the other side. And when I heard his voice, I immediately knew that I had made it. And he told me very succinctly, he said, John, this is Maurice Cook. I'm calling to let you know that you've been selected to become a Texas Ranger, and your promotion will be effective June 1st. This was late May, so a couple of weeks away. Your promotion will be effective June 1st. You'll be assigned to Company D, stationed in San Antonio, and your captain is C.J. Haverda. You'll report to him. Yes, sir, thank you. And that was as simple as that. And I gotta say, like a lot of things in life, even though I would not have picked San Antonio, that I could not have gone to a better duty station as a Ranger. Had a great captain. He treated us like we were his kids. He took care of us and protected us when we probably needed to. It was one of those deals when he probably shouldn't have. Just a great captain. I think the world of C.J. Haverda, and really enjoyed working for him, and enjoyed working for the guys that I worked with in Company D. Was involved in a lot of great cases, a lot of tragic cases, but played a hand in getting some really bad people put behind bars where they belong. So this is such an incredible and what's an incredible honor and a humbling experience for me. I remember at the reunion when this was announced, it came as a complete surprise. Never in my wildest dreams would I have expected this to happen. I never even contemplated it. The guys that are on that list are guys that I had read about, and just had an incredible impact on the reputation that my generation and generations that followed them enjoyed. We enjoy a great reputation because of them. And so I feel wholly unworthy. And of the things that have been said of me and cited for the reasons why I was selected for induction, I would characterize those as having done nothing more than made a return on the investment that was made in me, to the Texas Rangers as an organization and to the people of the state of Texas. And that's truly how I feel about it. And there's one other thing. So, John Aycock and I are the first living Texas Rangers that have ever been inducted. And I'm not so sure that's not a mistake, because we're still alive. We can still mess that up.